The horse came stumbling through the gate, foam on its neck, blood on the saddle. A man hung half off its side, one boot still caught in the stirrup, his hat long gone. The wind carried the smell of iron and sweat. Then he fell. He hit the dirt hard, a dull, wet sound. Dust lifted around him, catching the last red light of evening. The yard went still, except for the wheezing rasp of a dying man. Eleanor Vale stood frozen on the porch, her hands dripping soapy water from the basin. The sound had dragged her from her kitchen, that heavy, final thud no ranch woman ever forgets. She stepped down, bare feet pressing into the cold earth. The horse snorted once, then bolted toward the open fields. Eleanor knelt beside the man. Blood had soaked through his shirt, spreading like dark wings across his chest. His eyes rolled back, white when she touched him. "Hey, easy now," she whispered, her voice steady though her heart wasn't. The wound was deep, just below the ribs. Bullet wound. Fresh. Her lantern shook as she lifted it, the flame catching the gleam of a star-shaped badge tucked beneath his torn coat. Faded now, worn smooth by years of dust and duty. And on the saddle, the mark she hadn't seen in years. Tom's old regiment. Eleanor's throat tightened. "Lord above," she breathed. "Who sent you here?" The man groaned, a sound that wasn't a word, just pain clawing up from somewhere deep. She pressed her hand to his chest to stop the bleeding, but it only made the blood warmer between her fingers. She looked around. The sun gone now, the world turning to iron and shadow. The barn creaked. The wind carried something else, too, the faint, distant cry of coyotes, or maybe something worse. "Come on," she muttered, hooking her arms under his shoulders. "You didn't ride all this way to die in my dirt." He was heavier than he looked. The effort tore at her arms, but she dragged him through the doorway, across the floorboards, leaving a dark trail behind. Inside, the air smelled of kerosene and earth. She pushed the table aside and laid him out before the fire. His breathing was shallow now, the kind that means a man's fading fast. "Stay with me," she said, her voice breaking just once. "Don't you die here, stranger." She tore a sheet into strips, pressed them tight against the wound, her hands moving with the rough, practiced calm of someone who'd buried too many things already. Outside, the coyotes howled again, closer. The flame flickered. The man twitched once under her grip, then went still. Eleanor looked toward the window, saw nothing but her own reflection in the glass, a ghost holding a dying man. And from somewhere out past the barn, something moved. The fire hissed as blood dripped into it. Eleanor's hands were slick again, the linen strips soaked through faster each time. She pressed harder, her breath trembling with every heartbeat that wasn't hers. The man's chest rose shallow and quick. His skin was cold. She could feel his pulse stuttering beneath her palm like a trapped bird. "Not yet," she whispered. "Not tonight." She tore another length of cloth from the sheet and dipped it into the pot of steaming water. The scald bit her fingers, but she didn't stop. Steam filled the small cabin, mixing with the sharp scent of whiskey and iron. The floorboards beneath them were dark now, shining in the firelight. He moaned once when she cleaned the wound again, a low, broken sound. His lips moved, but no words came. "Save your strength," she murmured. "You've lost near all the blood a man can lose and still bargain with God." Outside, something shifted. A horse snorted, then another. Eleanor froze, the wet bandage clutched tight in her hand. She moved to the window, keeping the lamp low. 3 horses in the yard, riders cloaked in dust. They didn't move much, just shadows against the pale moonlight. One leaned down, speaking in a low voice that carried across the yard. "He dropped near here. Couldn't be gone far." Another spat. "He's finished. Let the buzzards work for once. Not till I see him dead." Eleanor eased the curtain shut and blew out the lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the faint red of the fire remained, throwing shapes across the walls. She went to the man again, whispering close to his ear, "You brought trouble to my door, didn't you?" His breath rattled, a sound of someone fighting the edge. She looked toward the floorboards, the loose plank beneath the stove. She pulled it free and slid his revolver into the dark hollow. pressing the wood back into place with shaking hands. The riders' murmurs drifted away toward the barn. Their boots crunched in the dust. The horses' hooves faded slow, but she knew they hadn't gone far. Eleanor lit the lamp again, just a flicker, and went back to work. The bandages were crimson, her arms streaked to the elbow. She moved steady, whispering words she hadn't spoken in years, the same ones she'd said over her husband when they'd carried him home, full of bullets and dust. The night stretched long. Each hour brought another fevered shiver from the stranger, another round of changing cloths, another silent prayer whispered into the smoke. Sometime near dawn, her eyes burned too much to stay open, but she forced them wider. "You'll live," she said, more to herself than him. "Because I said so." Outside, the wind shifted again, the sound of hooves turning back toward the house. The first shot shattered the window. Eleanor dropped behind the table, glass biting into her palms. The echo rolled across the valley like thunder, then silence, the kind that waits for another bullet. The wounded man stirred on the floor, his eyes opening halfway, breath ragged. They found me." "Stay down," she hissed, grabbing the rifle from above the hearth. Her shoulder burned from where the bandage had slipped, but her hands were steady. She slid the bolt, the sound sharp in the quiet. Outside, hooves scraped the dirt. Voices murmured, 3 of them, close now. "Check the porch. He's in there." Eleanor's heartbeat was loud enough to hear. She crawled toward the door, pressed her back against the wall, and looked through the crack. 3 riders, one by the trough, one at the steps, one still in the saddle, their hats low, their faces half lost in the rising light. The leader raised his hand and called out, voice lazy but cold. "Mornin', ma'am. We're looking for a man. Might have passed through here last night. Bleeding, worn out, hard to miss." Eleanor said nothing. The man on the floor tried to rise, but she pushed him back with a firm hand. "You hush," she whispered. The leader waited. "Ain't no sense in lying, miss. We just need what's ours." She eased the door latch up with the rifle barrel and whispered under her breath, "Not today." When she stepped outside, the dawn caught her in full. Hair loose, dress torn and stained dark. The rifle gleamed in her hands. The nearest rider blinked. "Hold on there." The shot dropped him before he finished. Chaos followed. The one by the trough dove for cover, firing wild. The third spurred his horse around the corral, bullets splintering the posts. Eleanor fired again, then again, the kick of the rifle jarring through her arms. Smoke curled around her. The fire inside burned steady cold. One man screamed, hit but not dead. She ducked as a round tore through the porch rail, wood exploding beside her cheek. Her shoulders stung. She didn't stop. She reloaded, teeth clenched, breathing like a furnace. When she fired again, the man by the trough went still. His hat rolled into the dust, turning slow in the wind. The last rider hesitated, horse pawing the ground. He looked from his fallen men to the woman on the porch, the barrel of her rifle fixed on his chest. Eleanor's voice was low. "You took enough from me once. Don't make me take more." He pulled the reins hard, turned, and fled into the desert. Eleanor watched him vanish into the sun's glare. The rifle sagged in her hands. Behind her, the wounded man groaned, still alive. The yard was quiet again, just dust, blood, and the soft creak of the windmill turning above it all. Smoke still hung over the yard. The smell of gunpowder and blood clung to the morning air. Eleanor's breath came in short bursts as she stepped down the porch stairs, the rifle dragging slightly in her grip. The bodies lay still. Flies were already gathering. Her dress was torn at the shoulder where the bullet had grazed her, the fabric stiff with blood. Behind her, a low moan rose from inside the cabin. The wounded man, still alive. She turned back, limping, one hand pressed her arm. Inside, the fire had burned low. The man's eyes fluttered open when she knelt beside him. He tried to speak, but she hushed him. "Don't," she said. "Save your breath." His lips cracked into something close to a smile. You stayed up all night." She gave a small laugh, quiet as wind in the grass. "And look what it got me." He tried to move, but she pushed him gently down, adjusting the bandage with trembling hands. The blood had slowed. He would live. Somehow he would live. You'll rest here, she said softly. Ain't no one left to chase you now. Outside, the windmill creaked, the sound slow and steady, marking the silence between heartbeats. The light through the window was gold and clean, touching the dust that hung in the air like memory. Eleanor rose, wincing as her shoulder pulled. She stepped onto the porch once more. The horizon was endless, shimmering with heat, the same color as firelight and loss. She looked down at the rifle in her hands, her husband's rifle, and for the first time in years, she felt its weight ease. She leaned it against the wall, barrel up, beside the door where it would stay. By midday, the story had already begun to move. Ranch hands on the trail spoke of the widow who fought off 3 outlaws to save a dying man. Some swore she killed 5. Some said she never bled at all. Weeks later, a trader passing through told it by lamplight in a saloon down in Abilene. How a woman named Eleanor Vale stood alone against death and didn't blink. They said the man she saved rode back east once he healed, but his trail ended near Red River, where her grave sits beneath the cottonwoods. No one knows the truth anymore. But when the nights turn long and the coyotes start up their song, the old-timers swear they can still see her light burning on the hill, a widow keeping her watch, tending a fire that never dies. And the storyteller leans forward, voice low, eyes bright with the memory of it. There was a woman once, he says, who looked death square in the eye and told him, "Not tonight."